So it's Erev Chanuka, Tavshin Pei. Last night we eradicated the bad energy of Nittel, of the Klippa, and we're back to bringing positive energy into our life vis-a-vis Hanukkah. So Hanukkah reminds us that Chanu Chafei, the Gemara says, my Hanukkah, Chanu Chafei, the Jewish people rested from the war of the Maccabees on the 25th. Nevertheless, the festival is celebrated primarily on the oil. We light the Menoras, the jug of oil. So this is the question that everyone asks. Shouldn't the Yom Tov of Hanukkah be celebrated more about the victory of the Ma'atim over the Rabbim, the minute, over the majority? There were so many more and so more powerful, the Greek armies and all that. But nevertheless, we don't make a big deal about that. We just mention it in the word Chanukah, which is an important word, of course. But we don't do any celebration of substance except saying Hallel. So this is a basic question. And Chassidus has its view and answer. Chabad Chassidus says like this, that the jug of oil, if you put various liquids on anything mixed together, oil will always rise to the top. In Hilchos Yeredeya, there's a rule called Mefafei al Kula, which is the same idea, oil. So what does oil represents? The Chochmah Sheba'odam, the Chochmah Shebanefesh, in Kabbalistic terms now. The first of the 10 spheros known as Chochmah within the soul, within the Nefesh. Meaning, it's the pristine, pure aspect of the Neshama. Okay? What happened over here? The Hellenists sought to obliterate the divinity within God, within Torah mitzvahs. And therefore, the Gemara says that they said, if you want to celebrate certain mitzvahs that make sense, like kibbud aveim and not murdering and not stealing and have a court of law and all of that, no problem. It's logical. It's the proper thing to be a mensch, to behave, to respect. But mitzvahs like Shabbos and Milah, that Shabbos should be specifically the 7th day of the week, Shabbos, and Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, whether you make a Shabbos out of it or not, it makes, for us, it's not Shabbos, or so it has to be specifically on the Shabbos. So too, Milah on the 8th day, the circumcision, not on the 4th day, not on the 10th day, but on the 8th day. So mitzvahs like that, or Shabbos, or Bishul Cholav in Basar v'Cholav, and all those mitzvahs that are chukim, statutes, there's no rationale given in the Torah for them. This is my decree. They were against. And they said, we won't let you do that. In fact, the Gemara says, they said, right, Al-Keren, Yisrael, pronounce to everyone, you don't have a part in the God of Israel. What does that mean? That God is God, they admit it. But that God is something different than what we call divine, that they didn't agree with. That's what they were against. So the miracle of winning a war is not symbolic and doesn't address this issue. We won a war, it's a great simcha, no question about it. But it doesn't get, the war was about the guf. And Yaini, the festival of Hanukkah wasn't about the Jewish guf, it was about the Jewish neshama. The festival of Purim was about the Jewish guf. Haman sought to kill all the Jews, regardless. The guf, the body. But Hanukkah, no. Hanukkah is about the soul, to eradicate the holiness and divinity of the soul. So emphasizing, Chassidus says, emphasizing the victory in war would not be a proper memorization and memorial and representation of what is the Nakuda of Hanukkah. What's the Nakuda? Ruchnius over Gashmius, divinity. How do you see that in oil? Because here was one jug of oil, which had enough to last for one day, to last the whole time. But besides that, that the timing of how it lasted, it's more about the essence of oil. The oil represents the aspect that always rises to the top. It's always complete and pure. That's the point. That's the neshama. So the finding of a sealed jug of oil, meaning that the Greeks couldn't contaminate it because it was beyond contamination. What can you contaminate? You can contaminate. You could hurt the goof, but the neshama they couldn't get to. That's what so they sought to eradicate the neshama. So what do we celebrate? We celebrate the neshama vis-a-vis the oil. So the fact that they found a jug of oil wasn't just because there's many questions on that, as you've learned on that finding of the oil, 8 days, 7 days. Why? What's the big nest? And you could have filled up. It's the Nakuda of oil that was celebrating. That's the Nakuda of Hanukkah. And that's why, another point, this mitzvah of Hanukkah, we emphasize, we paskin, right, like Hillel, that we do mahadrim and mahadrim, each day we increase. Although technically you could do one candle each day, we go and we do 1, 2, 3, Mailim B'Kodesh. So there's already much conversation about this in the Holy Sfarim. And the idea is Mahadrin Mina Mahadrin. Now, what's the Nakuda? What's the point of beautifying something, the beautiful of the beautiful? The idea is, Moshe Myers, the idea is that we don't suffice with just doing something that's right and doing it properly. Mahadrin. And this explains a lot of things in Yiddishkeit. Okay? A Jew, a Yid, should not seek just to do what's obligatory, the bare minimum. That's in Yiddish we say the expression to yoitze sein. The yoitze is Hebrew, but the expression means I do it so I get it done. I get it done. I did it. Went to shul this morning, I heard the Kadeshim, I did it. That's what Hashem wants. Of course he wants that, but he wants much more. He wants there should be a geschmack and a pleasure and a tainug and a slavus, so that an excitement, enthusiasm. So that's emphasized when we do mahadrin, mina mahadrin. And that's the idea of the oil, of the neshama. The neshama doesn't suffice just doing it and doing it right and legalistic. Legally, I did it. But there's no life to it. It's empty. It's like, without enjoyment, without koyach. So that's why specifically the Yom Tiv, it's a rabbinic Yom Tiv, not a biblical one. The Yom Tiv of Hanukkah, this Yom Tiv isn't just doing the mitzvah mahadrim, but mahadrim min mahadrim, because that's the nakuda of oil. That's one thought that you could think about and share as you go through the Yom Tiv. It's, I think, a very nice concept. The other nakuda, which we've mentioned, but it's worth mentioning again, is the language in the Al Nisecha that we say in the Al Nisim. And we say, Lashkichem Torasecha u'lavirem mechuke ritzonecha. Why does that have to say Torasecha? Of course it's God's Torah. Lashkichem Torah, ha-Torah. Lavirem mechukim. Why the emphasis? Secha, that they sought, the Greeks sought to make us forget your Torah, ulaviram, and make you desecrate your will. It's self-understood. So again, here we have this explanation brought in many Svarim, and Chassidus as well, and that is that it's the same idea that we mentioned. In other words, what I'm showing you is that there's an akuda klalit, there's a general thread and idea that goes through different ideas, both in our tefillos of Chanuka and in our observance of Chanuka, that we find this nakuda. And that is that they had no problem with Torah and mitzvahs as a whole. Because if it's a cultural thing, no problem. They had a problem associating it that you do it because God said so. In other words, Kibbud Aveim shouldn't be done just because, Tom McLaughlin in North Dakota gives respect to his parents. Very nice. It's very nice, Tom. But why should a Yid give respect? Not because it's nice, because Hashem says so in the Aseres Adibris, Kibbud Aveim. So our Kibbud Aveim, Menashe, isn't just a nice thing, a proper thing. Our Kibbud Aveim needs to be predicated on the Borei Olam, the Creator. And as we think about this, there are times when you don't want to do Kibbud Aveim. I'm just using that as an example. Or have a Kibbud Aveim. Or another mitzvah that's logical. Right? You just don't want to do it, or you're not interested, or you say, I find reasons not to do it. Guess what? You have to put yourself aside and say, since the entire reason why I should do it is because God said so, because Hashem said so, so the fact that I feel this way, I feel that way, who cares? And if we don't do one of the mitzvahs because we don't feel this way or that way, then we're like Tom McLaughlin in North Dakota, who decided today to honor his parents, and tomorrow he might shoot them because he feels they're evil. No, you're laughing, Moshe Myers. It's not a joke. It's real. In other words, the whole idea of I don't mean you're laughing at me. I'm just saying the whole idea of mitzvahs is because of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So that's why you come, you're in the world of Eshat Torah. We're, 48 ways to be happy. Chabad never pushed that. And I'll tell you, I thought about it a lot. Mute yourself, please.
Yeah.
Happy. And if I'm not happy, I shouldn't do the mitzvah. Okay, I understand. It was a gimmick to get people in. I know that. I'm just saying the nakuda. The point is, whether I'm happy or I'm not happy, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, do this mitzvah, and I want to listen to him. I do it. I woke up on the wrong side. I'm angry. I have reason to say to Hashem, Chas v'Sholom, you're messing me up for no reason, and what are you doing? And I don't like you. You know what I'm saying? Who are you? So all of this is encapsulated in those two words. Torah secha. It's your Torah that they were against. The divinity of Torah. That's what they were against. Lashkichem. They wanted us to forget that it's God's Torah, and they wanted us to desecrate God. Chukei ritzonecha. Your will. Yes, the emphasis, dafka, specifically yours. This is the nakuda that's brought in Chassidus on these two concepts. Now, it's also important to mention that's brought down in the Sfarim Akdoshim, the importance of adding in tzedakah during Chanuka. Chanukah's 8 days, so it's mentioned in many Sfarim that the 8 days of Chanuka is associated with the 8 days of Sukkot, and in a way, it's like the finale for the Yomim, the Tishrei, the Yom Tovim. So that's one idea, and simultaneously is the idea that Harbis B'Tzedakah, it's brought down in Shulchan Aruch, I believe even Kitzur, that the increase in Suda, but also in Tzedakah. Also, there is a tradition in Chabad as well, and others, that the 5th night of Chanukah, you try to have a latkes oven. Again, if you can afford to eat latkes. But to gather people together, to make a kinnus, and to give tzedakah, and say divrei Torah and tefillah. And the question was always asked, why the fifth night? And some say because the Alter Rebbe went out of jail that day. That's why in Chabad they do it. And there are other ideas. There's a famous story with the Rebbe, the ganze Meise. But regardless, the idea, this is what I want to say. Everyone here probably has or goes to Moshe Myers. Please mute yourself. Everyone goes
Sorry,
to...
I have a wedding. Someone made a wedding. Is that also a good day for a wedding, the 5th of Hanukkah?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So the Chagigas sometimes get out of hand where it's just about chatting and hucking and drinking and eating, and let us do that, but imbue it with ruchnius, you know. And if you're at a party, Moshe, or Hillel or anyone, and say a dvar Torah, say a vart, take 2 minutes, a minute, say something. You know, you don't need to be a rabbi and a scholar Moses to say a story. Make it ruchnius, make it significant. Let people know that it's not just a party. This ideas of parties and parties and parties. The whole idea of a party is just to entice the Yetzer Hara. Rabbi Steinsaltz would say, if you tell the Yetzer Hara, come to a shir, he says, go somewhere. You tell the Yetzer Hara, come to Dalfin, he says, I gotta sleep in bed. You tell the Yetzer Hara, come to a party, we're gonna drink Kentucky bourbon or whatever, and have good steak. You know, right? Oh, I'm coming to a good party. Once he comes to the party, the Yetzer Hara, you drag him in, you give him a l'chaim, and you sing a niggin, and you say Dvar Torah, and you get him excited, and you bring out his passion that should be for Hashem too. So the whole idea of the party is a hook. A hook, but it shouldn't be more than a hook when it becomes a cook, not a hook, where you're all cooked up with the party with 65 different meats, and you forget about the purpose of the party. It's whatever. It's empty. It's reik. It's reik. Yes, it's Yidden getting together. I understand. And again, there are certain circumstances where just getting together as Jews is important. But for us who know better, and we're in different communities and different shuls and all of that, make your party a ruchdisdika one. So that's another. I know we're going to go into having parties now for 8 days. It should be imbued with ruchnius. Another nakuda of Chanuka is, and this the Rebbe, as you know, made a big point of lighting Menoras in public. Everyone, whether you participate or you light a menorah, and the idea is Pirsume Nisa, okay? And to publicize the Mitzva of Chanuka. When I was a younger man, going back to the 70s, Yoini, this is, I think, before Starrett City, or maybe Starrett City, which is on the way to JFK, was just going up already. It was brand new, I remember. And I went there, Chanuka, those buildings, at that time, there was full of Russian Jews, the 70s, full in those buildings. It wasn't what it is today, which, you know what I mean. It was full of Russian Jews, and it was great. Hundreds of people lit the menorah just by walking on the floor, knocking on the door, come in. I have very warm memories of being welcomed in by these Russian babushkas and others, and lighting the menorah. So listen, if you think that everyone in Ramat Bet Shemesh is lighting a menorah, I doubt it. I'm sure there are others, some that don't. So, think about who that is that you know, and you can knock on their door and say, would you like to light the menorah with me? I'll help you, Chabad gives out menorahs, and all that. So the idea is Pirsum Nisa, to publicize. Now, the Rebbe, I recall, I don't know if it was towards the end of the 70s or in the 80s, they started to make these public menorah lightings in world over, in Paris in the Eiffel Tower, in Yerushalayim at the Kaisel, and in New York in 770, and in Los Angeles and different places, and they hooked it all in on screen, and they was able to see it with everyone, and it was a big idea of Persuma Nissa. In what sense? In the sense that we see that Yidden from the world over are recognizing and publicizing the message of Chanuka. And the message of Chanuka is freedom, which is an easy one to explain. And I would say a large part, I'm not going to say complete, a large part of the opposition by members of the Federation, the reform movement that we had going back, and I've documented that some in one of my new books, is dissipated. I'm not going to say it's gone, but it's less and less. So what we could do and what we should do, Yaini, is take our kids or grandkids and go sometime to a building, to a place, or to the Merkaz, and stand there and give out a menorah, talk to push it. It's called, in Chabad, it's called Mitzva, not Mitzvah. Mitzva, Chanuka, which is the Chanuka campaign. And lots of people, you'll be surprised, are today from because of menorahs. I also remember, I don't know if any of you ever saw the first large menorah was at Union Square in San Francisco. And Bill Graham, not Billy Graham, Bill Graham was a survivor, and he lived actually in Marin County, which was my turf, but years later. In Corner Madera, I think he lived, somewhere out there. He had a whole estate. And he sponsored the first menorah in Union Square. And it was amazing. And there's a whole story how it got there, because first the rabbi did it in Union Square, and it was a great success, Rabbi Drizin. Then the Reform Rabbi Asher, came running to the Federation. How could he allow them to do that on public property? So the Federation said, do us a favor, we'll give you a beautiful spot with gardens elsewhere. And if you don't have such a successful event, then we'll go back to Union Square. So he wrote to the Rebbe, Rabbi Drizin. The Rebbe said, ask people on the spot who know and you respect. And so that day, two Hasidim, Rabbi Reichik and Rabbi Futterfasser Mendel, were in San Francisco, I think, raising some funds. And Mendel told him that sometimes you have to go back, just like an ox. Before it gores, it goes back, and then it gores much stronger. So Mendel said sometimes you have to go back for the purpose of more. So that year, Hitaka went elsewhere. The second year, when the menorah was lit in public, he had 50 people. He was very upset. But the Federation, the San Francisco Federation, lived up to its word. And the next year, he came back and they had 1,000 people again. So that was the first menorah that Chabad put up in public in 1975 at Union Square. So the idea is to do the mitzvah, to reach out, to help others with the lighting of the menorah. Chevra, we're taking a break from tomorrow to Monday or Tuesday, January 6th or 7th, depending if I go to Florida or not. I'll let you know, Mitzvah Hashem. So because of davening and the schedule, so I'm just going to, leave it. And everyone should have a lichtikim, freilich and Chanukah. If you need anything, I'm available on the WhatsApp or whatever, and let me know. Sei gesund, tatzlocha rabba. Take care. Bye-bye.